Honey, I shrunk the Shockwave!
I'm right here, and who are you talking to?
Starting from the last night, the toy line wasn't everyone's favorite, with some toys being lackluster as well as cluttered with repaints nobody wanted, but there's some shine in the trash pile, including the tiny turbo changers. Not everyone's cup of millennial tea, but with their super cute style, cheap price, and likeness of the mystery bags, these were innocent enough to be inoffensive. Series 2 brought more characters from older movies, including Shockwave from the Dark of the Moon film. In alt mode, Shockwave technically didn't have anything to transform into in the film, but for the toys and maybe some of the concept art, he became a Cybertronian tank. But this is pretty questionable. I can see some treads, but with the head flat down, feet up, and arms on top, it just looks like he tripped during the Naruto run. Canon is there, thank God, even though it's on the opposite side to the main figure, so it's automatically lazy and poopy, but I guess it's no reason to complain. I should expect the most basic from something as simple as this. I do wish the front had some interesting textures, otherwise it looks like some sort of skate ramp or a scoop to bring stuff to the cannon. Whoa, Tony Hawk! I'm honestly not really upset by it. It's a little trinket that actually does something, which is a lot more I could say compared to some other mass retail overpriced so-called toys. Looking at you, Titanium Megatron. At least it's functional enough. I just wish there was some more dedication to the alt mode. Not much, just needs some zest to make it pop. It's innocent at best. Robot mode. Shockwave in robot mode proves that a face can be adorably chunky and aggressively judgmental at the same time. It's like he just saw a double dipper near the chips and got furious. I appreciate the details they were able to capture with the pointy ears, singular red eye, and even the sideways teeth of Leela's father you can just catch painted in silver. Nice broad chest that comes across as a burnt skeleton with a logo on it, and not much alt mode kibble to obstruct it. Good job on barely making a tank mode look decently good. Did someone say articulation? Ball joint shoulders, waist rotation, tapping toes, and wow, all that in a clump of purple. Messing around the side, I can't expect much for posability. Most just have basic shoulders with anything additional from the transformation. At least you could tilt them for the Michael Jackson found a penny, and the arm joints are in the correct position, that being mid-upper arm. This flat plank of man seems very clean from the back with impressive detail down to the nice ass. If only the feet could have some. I do like the arm blade and cannon in silver, but should the colors have swapped? Also, I am outraged by the atrocity that he has two hands. Who is this even? At least he could hold tiny weapons in the unnatural hand, but he seems uncomfortably shrug about it, and he's gonna have neck issues if he keeps that up. Seems like we found the inspiration for the Cyberverse weird eyebrow thing because his face shows constant disappointment. Passive-aggressive or natural aggression? You decide. I'm not really picky about the toy, it's just a cutesy little desk toy from a mystery bag that's inexpensive. I'm glad after so long since the film, Shockwave managed to show up in a line, so there's some nostalgia to it. In its simplicity, it does its job, and really, you can't stay upset. Expecting perfection out of a tiny trinket would lead to disappointment. If this puts a smile on my face, then it's good in its own way. I think this is alright. I just don't understand his natural shoulders and deformed having a second hand. Honey, I shot... Let me ask you something. Is this the droid you're looking for?
Is that a reference?
You remember the BB-8 from the Star Wars? That little robot everybody wanted, a $200 RC toy roaming around the house scaring the cats? Well, the Transformers franchise stepped in and said, you know what we should do? Make a bad film. Squeaks was there in the film, you can't deny that. He was seemingly built from scrap and hangs around a little girl in Transformers The Last Night. He was also, I guess, trying to be marketable for kids, but how many of you saw Squeaks on clearance in 2019? There's some collectors who wanted an appropriate size Squeaks for their collection, and with the Deluxe being a little large, the tiny turbo had probable use in the scale of the toys. Squeaks transforms into a little scooter, although in the film he was just cobbled from spare parts not meant to really shift into an alternate form. But if I can get with Nightbird having a car form, this is just under the radar. Adorable in its light blue coloring, but lacking in additional colors to pop, aside from the black wheels and silver lights that look like a face. I even see a little mouth there. Blink for God's sakes! Looks like grandma the damn thing! Taking advantage of the tiny turbo changers, Squeaks sells in perfectly in the scale of the larger figures, so that gives him more of a reason to purchase. The handlebars even fit the other figures, but good luck with their shoulder articulation. Doesn't take much to set it off balance, but I love the convenient Autobot logo on the back, and it is pretty clean aside from the secondary handlebars. Potentially ignored though, but it does seem to remind you of what it becomes. Oh, and those headlights? Jeez, dude. Halo Infinite Leak. This vehicle doesn't need much focus as he didn't properly transform, but as a toy, the alt mode feels like more effort was put in than necessary. That's not a complaint, I just wish the blur of blue had some paint so it looks interesting. But it's okay. Robot mode. In robot mode, oh god, those eyes, they could see atoms! Honestly, for a basic tiny turbochanger, Squeaks does a pretty decent job, as he doesn't disrupt the theme, adding him to the main scale. I guess I could bring up the second wheel he didn't have, or the weird fin on his head, but am I really gonna be picky with a toy that's based on sentient junk? I do like the helmet and coil hair from the bike handlebars, but those eyes... It's like looking into the mind of a Tim Burton film. Did someone say, articulation? You could swing the wheels and do the cha-cha. He doesn't even have anything in the arms, nothing to swing, it's just there. Much like him for most of the film. Fantastic! I do like the bib and Autobot logo crotch. I'm not concerned about staring, the guy doesn't blink anyway. I like the mold work on this guy, especially with the torso cylinders and arms, but he totally needs some paint. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but if the Decepticons swap it out for a clump of clay, who would notice? Though if you want, a Decepticon can approach him and his face could open up for consumption as he eats his prey. Just move along, don't get in on his bad side. Do you think he says Chihuahua because he hungers for them? If you have a paintbrush, I'm sure you can make him stand out, or at least consistent to the mainline toys. But I can't say the simplicity of this toy is offensive. To be honest, I'm surprised how well it is. If you want another piece to your Transformers film figures, Squeaks is harmless enough. I'd say if you're interested and you find it for a good price, this will fit in perfectly. But if you also love the tiny figures, Squeaks continues that joy. And give him some respect, he fought in the Clone Wars Staring Contest Ultimate Edition. Success! I have spliced the DNA of a Shockwave with the crab!
Frankly, I can't say I'm not disturbed.
With the new Transformers Cyberverse series, the original classic characters who became the forefront of the franchise return for a new story, and with Shockwave getting a decent resurgence, he returns to appear in the show. He received multiple toys, including a Warrior class figure continuing from the Robots in Disguise scale with gimmicks that are, let's say, potentially garbage. Does Shockwave stray away from this plague? Shockwave, for the sake of a more child-friendly show, swaps the laser mode for a crab or spider tank? Okay. Who thought? Why? It's definitely weird and took me by surprise, but after getting used to it, I actually don't mind. It's more or less like his Cybertronian tank, but with legs. It's more basic and less ferocious compared to his show style, notably the lack of mandibles, but as a basic simplistic version that gets the idea across in a child's toy, it's not a bad attempt. It's something different, but I'm starting to fit comfortably with the idea. A monstrous thing like this is surely terrifying until you look at it from underneath. Also, dancing crab. Limbs are the same for the robot and doesn't restrict any joints given. Wish I could say the same for Starscream's pants. And the big broad pink screen feels like a symbol of his presence. And can I bring up that lush purple? I want to paint my walls that color. At least the gimmick they tried to slam into the figures, whether they work or not, actually functions in this mode. Simply pulling the tab allows this blast to pop out while the cannon moves out of the way. Simple until you realize there will be two in the robot mode. Also, it doesn't spring back in this form. Now, if we could get Optimus to ride it. If you're too into the nostalgic form, this isn't for you probably. However, as a toy, it's fine, and I've become attached to it. It's not hard to transform, and it's enjoyable. Robot mode. Shockwave patterns the theme of Cyberverse with specific angles, few changes, but you can still look at it and link the source material. It's the same with the infamous characters like Wheeljack, Starscream, Prowl, and we don't talk about Clobber. What vibrant colors! Purple is creamy and the pink is a nice touch to highlight interesting patterns of electric Pepto-Bismol. However, some parts decide to skip out, making the theme feel disconnected if you really focus hard on it. I do like the overall look of the guy, even though this great joint in the foot disrupts the flow, but what's with the outlined face all over his body? In case you confused him with someone else? You're fine, Energon 6-Shot. Nice silver texturing, but look in the leg, and the illusion is revealed. I have mixed feelings about the face. Love the ears that move due to the transformation, and does have that familiar style, but does he need an eyebrow? To me, Shockwave never showed any clear remorse, and didn't need to show any emotion as he's tapping into horrid experiments. This is like meeting an old friend you haven't talked to in a while, and immediately you somehow pissed him off. What did I do? Tell me! This is uncomfortable. He should be a teacher. He has eyes everywhere. Is that enough to set me off? No. But why does his head not turn? One joint. Only needed one joint to be decent. Oh, you're lucky you're a Shockwave figure. Did someone say articulation? Because it's starting well with this guy. Shoulders forward and back, out and in, ball joint elbows, hips out and in, forward and back, rotation below, and knee bend. Everything under the head is fine. Too bad about not having a head joint. A lot of these warrior figures' pose abilities get disrupted by a gimmick. But this literally goes right over the head. It's not hard to install a neck. I like how the backpack is half traditional and half something different. If only you could do that with Star Wars films. Also, you can add weapons to the hand, but even with his gun arm, there's a port above to attach other weapons. Speaking of which, while he has no accessories, he can flip up the back, and now he has a shoulder cannon with 2 powerful blasts of cotton candy. Glad it doesn't get in the way of the legs, arms, and I guess I should be thankful considering the alternatives. This is probably the closest to a decent figure we'll get from the Cyberverse in this size, so it's best to... Couldn't have started with that! Why? Chest doesn't lock well, but maybe you can use it to munch on some tomatoes. Also, get the tiny turbo and he could have a drone! So on the one hand, no pun intended, while being better than some of the other figures in the class, Shockwave is still limited with what he can do, leaving some to be desired and not meeting everyone's needs, especially with the alternate choices for Shockwave in toy form. However, this toy is simple enough to warrant a purchase. Plastic feels a little cheap, and I'm concerned about playing rough with how the hips are built. But as a toy, he's not bad. He's also pretty inexpensive. So if you want one to mess with, this should be a logical purchase. Oh, he has an eye on his forehead? Does this mean that's a third eye, or is he normal now? I think we can all agree that Megatron works as a medieval goblin. After getting killed, returning, getting killed, and returning again, Megatron seems to be the universe's pest that can't stay squished. The furious Decepticon warlord returns, scrapping the human-given Galvatron name for his rightful title. In Transformers The Last Night, Megatron has a more medieval demonic style to him, and honestly, it's the best design from the films. Absolutely terrifying, even if he's in the film for more than 5 minutes, and I looked it up. In alt mode, Megatron transforms into an alien jet, which is weird. When do you leave Earth to scan an alien hilt of a sword? I'm not gonna argue, it's a sleek and sharp design in theory, but somehow, even in the size, it feels clunky. Love the arrowhead nose, daggers of wings you could probably use to cut even the freshest tomatoes, and someone put in a car engine hoping nobody would notice. But the base of the alt mode goes from aerodynamic to a cylinder of greebling. I don't mind the legs so much aside from the feet, but to its credit, they put these round turbine thingies to pretend it's consistent. It might just be the arms that set me off, but in this scale, getting picky is almost pointless. I'm glad he's mostly a consistent color so the robot kibble blends, and while it's somewhat dull for kids, there is a sharp presence. This is the nightmare for teachers who hate paper planes. Not that one. Nice Decepticon logo, and on the other side, some strange alien code. We can only imagine what it translates as. Maybe this one isn't political. This throwing blade for magicians, don't try it at home, is perfectly fine for its design. Better than the first Legends movie figure we got. It does its job, and that's good. Robot mode. I am so happy Megatron's not this unrecognized burly clump of a troll and is now seen as a demonic essence of evil with a pointy chin, weird horns, and a body that looks decayed. There's even spine details. It's certainly unrefined but still horrid, with parts that look like feathers barely holding on or exposed skeletal details, all in the colors of creamy yellow caramel and different shades of disgusting dry gum on the pavement. Wish the molding was more sharp and less flat, but a tiny demonic Megatron is just what we need. At least he didn't get a shitty outdated repaint. Ew, could you imagine? Just a dark recolor of the original? Don't confuse him with a demented kite man with those wings, not originally in the design, and sort of wish they could fold down, but did I argue with it? Did you argue with it? Who's arguing? Did someone say articulation? Hinge joint, ball joint shoulders, ball joint hips, and knee bend. Pretty basic with the knees in addition, likely for transformation, but I can't be disappointed. With a figure this size, I can't expect extreme masterpiece joints, but he's desperate for elbows. I'm glad he has a fusion fire-breathing cannon on the side, on a ball joint if that helps in any way. No locking tab, but sits just fine. And at least he's got a weapon. He also carries the original Cyberverse hand clips, and you can swap the cannon for the nose cone if he wants to rudely point. Skirt parts are molded into the legs so they don't get in the way, and such evil eyes. My brand! I wish he had bigger heels, because a tiny push and this monster tips over. Oh, what a evil, silly Billy. As a bite-sized version of Megatron, it's perfectly reasonable. I didn't grab too many Legion figures from this line, but Megatron just has this style that I'm glad to own in pocket form. A little basic in functionality and a little flat, but if you want a little gremlin desk toy, Megatron really isn't a terrible choice. He's still oozing in rage as much as they tried in the scale. Just keep him away from the matches. Oh, we just hit another milestone, which means that we have to continue the tradition that I usually do and review a Starscream figure, which was the first character I reviewed on the series. Oh, we're gonna take a look at something special. For this, we're gonna take a look at this! For those who don't know, it's my 7th anniversary, and I usually try to review a Starscream. This year, I chose the Transformer Cyberverse Scout Class Starscream, a small line with an interesting gimmick. Starscream is a tyrant of the Decepticons, a commander who thinks above his own worth. Starscream proves difficult, but only in the sense that he could be a pest. Starscream transforms into... what the hell is this? Apparently this line's gimmick is the idea of halfway transformed figures with some gimmick, and it's incredibly dumb. You might say, dude, don't complain, it's a $10 figure. If it's alright, allow me to roast his gear ass. Why? Why do this? I get these are gimmicky toys for kids, but it feels like an excuse to be mediocre. Oh, but what about the Fangurwalk modes? Aren't they the same? Going mid-mode for something silly? Well, sit down, because I'ma teach you something! While some fans like to mess with the idea for even the more collector side of things, the toys still integrate a complete alternate mode. This just stops for a gimmick, leading the alt mode to a sudden halt. Here at Hasbro, we know you like figuring out new alt modes, so now you're stuck with one. See what happens when you meddle with things beyond your control, accidentally giving us ideas! 999 please. At the very least, the molded detail looks fair, even though there's a chunk in the back that looks removed. It's better than the warrior figure compact garbage with wings. There's even null rays underneath with supposedly secondary weapons. What's the gimmick anyways? Other than the jet giving birth to a robot. Just pull this back and woo! LB, how much was it? I guess it's fine as a fidget spinner, but the wings are on the peg, so if your hand gets in the way, it could get knocked out of alignment. Actually, one slip of the hand, and the legs could shift, or you can hit the wings in general, and then it can be difficult. It's not the worst gimmick, but I bet you're wondering, what's the advantage of this attack? I sorta like how the wings balance themselves, and I guess you could shift the legs under the wings, but it's just not the same. It's a kid's toy, so I guess I shouldn't be too upset, but unless you like the gimmick, it's just teasing you for a proper jet. Robot mode. robot mode, surprisingly for the class and gimmick, it doesn't look too bad, though not a complete savior for the toy. Still could have looked worse. Yeah, the torso might look off with the entire nose as the torso and weird chest cylinders, but it actually adds some interesting elements, even if it is inaccurate. Color isn't flashy except for the blue that looks a little cheap, but I do love the red lines, and the Decepticon logo in the up position, I don't know if I should applaud it. Head's molded well, and the paint is good. His emotion is like standing in line for a coffee and hearing an upsetting comment from the guy in the back, but he doesn't want to deal with it, he just wants his coffee. Did someone say, articulation? Ball joint shoulders, ball joint hips, and hinged knees. Posability isn't exciting, nothing at the head, not much in the arms, but the legs should be okay, right? You'd think your expectations wouldn't be set for disappointment by now. Hips have a tab to keep it in place for the... I refuse to call it an alt mode, so taking that out, it still gets in the way. Also, the knees lock only in 2 positions. Don't try and push it. And for a figure standing in both modes, heels are trash. I'm glad he kept the weapon holes in the hands, but why soil a good weapon with this? I did find you can remove the wings and lightly put it in the hands as blades. Don't force it in. This bit of plastic under the ray is too thick, and you could break the hand. Actually, I just found out while recording this, there is a gap right there that actually will fit that piece of plastic right through. And if you move up the nose, leave the hands out, and fold up the legs, oh look! I think I know the perfect reaction.
Starscream, no!
Pretty much! Aggressive shrug, yeah, that sounds right. Though I don't have the Generations Legend Starscream, I can bring this in with the repaints and it looks okay. And look at that! Metallic blue neck? Yeah, nice try. Don't think too highly of yourself. I just want to say, yes, I'm a collector, but I was a kid once, and I just don't know if I would enjoy this figure. I'll tell you this, I thought it had a fun gimmick as a toy, but even then, it's not good. Definitely not the worst, even for a Cyberverse Scout toy, but it's something that can easily be skipped. If you want something simple if you're bored, then I guess this isn't harmful, just could have been improved. Not even a handsome face like that, actually forget it, worth buying for the face. Do you take a fancy to jazz? As an Elite Guard member, Jazz took the orders of Ultra Magnus and Sentinel Prime, but when he's tasked to do something he doesn't morally agree with, he can be vocal about it. Jazz has too kind of a heart to let politics get the best of him. That's until Power of the Primes messed that up. He's also a full ninja bot, somewhat like Prowl, and is an all-around sly, groovy guy. Jazz appeared in a few episodes of the Transformers animated show and managed to get a proper toy, which I got thanks to I Am Amazing Mason. Jazz transforms into this smooth race car much like the original Porsche model, but with rounded cartoonish features to fit the show. It's good, but it's also kinda round and bubbly. It's like a car Donald Duck would drive. It's got an aerodynamic swiftness to it, right down to the teardrop mirrors that look like bullets. And look at the headlights with, what are those eyelashes? Ooh, senpai. Roll sweetly with silver painted rims. Speaking of which, check out the red and blue stripe on top, followed by an Elite Guard symbol, almost making an arrow, so he's making sure you know front side first. Though, I mostly appreciate the full colored windows and white paint to cover the back. Everything's so slick on this guy, right down to the taillights. You can tell it's built with a theme, but I'm not sure if it's really for speed or to reduce drag to keep the flow grooving. I don't think he's an electric car with exhaust that large, and I thought you were some sort of hippie. Instead, I see you for what you are. And that's Herbie's uncle having a midlife crisis. I guess my major complaint would have to be the door arms are tricky to lock in, but if I can slip it into place, then I could be cool. Nah, I could be cool, I swear. I can be cool! Inoffensive and shows no aggression. This guy looks ready for a cool drive going wherever the road takes him. An absolutely grand representation not just for animated Jazz in physical form, but his personality. Robot mode! in robot mode is pretty skinny and long, but it's not like that's a bad thing. He's slim, slick, and easily mobile. Still,
Consume a sandwich.
he's not without significant issues. His busty boobalicious breast doesn't properly lock in. You can feel a mechanism that softly clicks, but mess around and the chest goes floobity. It also shifts the shoulders out of alignment. Although with the shoulders back, you can get the "want a piece of me" pose. Megatron, stop! There's also the issue of the hips. The corners at the ball joints are squared off and really messes with the articulation. It's hard to man-spread this guy. I love the head sculpt, keeping notes of the original version with the blue visor, but going with a different shape to make it its own thanks to the bone structure of Tulio in El Dorado. Did someone say articulation? Ball joint to hips, some barfly joint, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, double elbow, ball joint wrist, waist rotation, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee bend, and feet move to that funky beat. If it wasn't for the poorly made hips, the posability would be decent. Just don't rely too much on the toes, as they usually don't hold the entire weight of the figure. But I will say this is pretty well made design-wise. Even the kibble feels in place down to the back. Let's take a look at the accessories. Well, we gotta take him out of the arms, silly boob. They slide into this section here to form the side exhaust and can rotate for extended elbows. You could also rotate the doors and have a pipe-wielding Wolverine, or take them out, slide under the hand, and with his ninja ways, you can use them as nunchucks. Wish there was a wire inside to keep some pose, but it's fun to thrash around and do the leak spin meme. Damn, he just has this presence that you could rely on. You know, you just want to be friends with him with his charismatic chin and arrow to the taint. Are you telling me you don't have an arrow directed to the taint? I'm pretty sure I know who he plays as in Overwatch. The hamster. Jazz is what I consider to be successful in a number of ways. Not only is he a good representation to celebrate jazz, but he seems to do it in his own way, taking advantage in melding into the series. I wish it was more fun though, as the major issues really pull him back, but if you're a jazz fan, or an animated fan, or even just into the coolest of cool Transformers, Jazz is one figure you should consider getting. If only Sentinel didn't wrap him into political garbage.
Hello, ghouls, gals, Gatsby, Greg, and gassy individuals. It is the spooky month, one of the best times of the year, full of skellies, spooky werewolves, and ew, is that spider? Get.
Before she was the creepy crawly, she was the cadet known as Alita 1. She had the ability to copy certain weapons from other Transformers and use them for herself. She was also in the middle of a love triangle which stirred the pot for Sentinel and Optimus Prime's rivalry. In an unfortunate incident during a mission on an alien planet, she was lost, presumed dead, and left behind when attacked by massive spiders. Instead, she fought on, but using her ability, she accidentally mutated with the Beast, creating the web-spinning techno-organic, hoping to find an ailment against her monstrous form. Again, I got this thanks to I Am Amazing Mason on YouTube. Blackarachnia transforms into a massive Black Widow-style spider and someone nuke it! Sorry, I'm sure you're a lovely girl being a Decepticon and all. Okay, probably not, but I hate spiders that get into crevices of your home and dabble in tax fraud. I do like how slick it is, thanks to the curved styling of the Transformers animated show, allowing her this smooth, spindly aesthetic. The front legs look like daggers that'll trap you inside her clench as she consumes you with the multiple mandibles of which are posable. She looks thirsty for a good meal, a good morsel. Is Coke okay? With this creepy, lanky design, it doesn't give the robot kibble many areas to tuck away. Her head and lower body are visible, but it doesn't ruin it like the hands. The rest of the limbs I could take away fine. Even the back legs have a decent flow, but then her hands show up and I guess she could do origami. But really, the actual takeaway is the hourglass on top is too far forward and small. This is inaccurate to a real Black Widow, alien mutant sci-fi sentient robot woman. I mean, come on, Hasbro! What are you thinking? Why is she sniffing her ass? Back two pairs of legs have decent articulation as they are the limbs, if you could tell. but the front legs move forward and back separately, rotate on a connected joint, and the front ones have a second mid-joint. She also carries a claw game that attaches to the thorax, so you can push the button and pull the string, open the claws, grab something, and push the button again to retrieve it. The thorax itself is held on a joint and doesn't lock in, so if you try simply hanging her by a web, it doesn't look good. So what I like to do is use the back legs to hold it in place, and now she looks like she's spinning her own web. Blackarachnia has an interesting alternate mode that I think is presented pretty well. There's an intense creepy factor to the style that's impressive and freaky. Robot mode. In robot mode, the big titty goth girl returns with less gold and more purple in the deco. Personally, I like it. I can believe this was blended with a living creature with a less metallic deco, but I'm glad it doesn't lose the gold entirely. I like my Blackarachnia organic. Oh no, she's also been mutated with a Kardashian, really showing her dark side with the sharp spikes and spider legs getting out of her back. I guess Silver bolts into the creepy chicks with creamy thighs. Oh my god, she's actually got hands? I mean, look, I like Bisque as much as the next person, but it was very upsetting to see a spider lady with lobster claws, though I'm sure that's someone's fetish. The head sculpt is pretty nice. I love the helmet design and all four eyes glowing easily thanks to a chunk of transparent red plastic showing her evil intentions. I'm also glad to see the mouth design unchanged so she can spark flames with the Dinobots. Can I say hourglass figure if she literally has them? Did someone say articulation? Ball jointed head, hinge joint, ball joint shoulders, ball joint elbows, a bit of a waist but obstructed with the mandibles and thorax, ball joint hips, rotation below, and knee joint. Posability is fine except for the mutation caused a severe case of TF4 hands. Keep in mind, there's a gap in the neck that can be distracting. Also, if you don't like the heels and broken lower leg, you can bring in the foot, but she doesn't want to stand. Let's take a look at the accessories. She comes with the grapple claw as mentioned. Recap, push the button to extend it, and to spring it in, push the button again and let go. It's also got a good grip so she can wrangle up all the Evanescence songs. It taps directly in her arm so she can flip like Spider-Man or add to the back down for storage or up for Halloween decoration. You know, I just realized this could be a nod to the grapple cables she copied from Optimus Prime, just with that consume your soul type of look. You can also flip up these blades for some Beast Wars similarities, or if she just wants to pick up sushi. Alternatively, if this isn't enough, just grab the Legends figure or just wait for the masterpiece. Fun fact, she has a golden Decepticon logo because she thinks she's better than you, but not good enough for the Spider-Verse. Blackarachnia is very impressive. I'm pretty happy to have this figure, and that's coming from a guy who wants to burn all spiders. She may not be perfect with certain parts that don't implement well into the other modes, but I'm not gonna get upset. While certain things could have been improved for what they do right, I like what they did with this figure. She's enjoyable, and if you're a fan of this character or consider Beast Wars and animated underrated, this is a figure you might want to pick up if available. Just keep it away from Jeff Goldblum. They probably won't get along well.